in that pre-phase of
Okay.
setting up the things. Yeah.
Well, that's cool, though.
Yeah, that's nice.
I mean, I don't think we have, anything like, well, I don't, other than like a farm workers union, which is, is pretty much out in the west coast of the U.S. We don't really have any political parties that have meaningful power within the political realm.
Yeah.
So,
and tell me, where are you based? I think you told me before, but
yeah. So I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yep, East Coast. Sort of the south, the Mid Atlantic, I guess technically is the region here. So we're in Richmond. We're about 90 miles at most from the Atlantic coast.
Yeah, but you're in between DC and Dallas Airport, right? More or less.
Right. So we're just a couple of hours south of DC in the Dallas Airport. Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of commuting still happens. At least it did prior to COVID, between Richmond and DC for folks who will live in Richmond and commute for work to Washington, D.C. for the 4-day work week. So yeah, we're very close. Just before we head on to our segment here, I don't know if Sarah and I mentioned, but your internet connection seems very stable. But just in case there happens to be any disruption, you remember how to call in using the phone. Okay.
You have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just press the up arrow if that happens over by the mute icon, and then you can just follow the number. But I don't suspect anything would happen.
And are you going to follow these 5 questions, or you take a little bit of liberal route?
So these 5 questions are definitely, that we talked about earlier, definitely the guiding posts for our conversation. And then as I mentioned, folks who are watching live will offer some questions to sort of follow up on some of the topics that that they're curious about, maybe that they don't have the full context for, or want to have more information on. Yeah. So no gotchas, no surprises.
And you had already more episodes in the Sustainable Food and Agricultural series?
Yep. So we're really sort of gearing our discussion topics to like soil health, resource management, some specific trade policies within the agriculture sector, and land access. And then within that, within all of that, talking about agricultural systems that are more sustainable, more climate friendly practices. Yeah. I think the general agreement is that's the direction that agriculture needs to go. And
yeah, absolutely. One suggestion also is to think about water accounting. This is a topic that comes up more and more often in the water management sector. So, it's like you're making somebody accountable for its water by making balances and take care. There is no over exploitation and things like that. So, and it's a kind of popular topic at the moment. So just a suggestion.
I think it's something we need to get into. I think that if we can touch on it, I think we definitely have time to get your perspective, sort of a survey view of water accounting, and that might tee us up nicely for a future episode, because that seems to be more specific to the policy environment of water management.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah, and policy is an important domain for us to cover, obviously. Yep. So you are did you say you're one of the world's first global water accountants?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, but I'm not so active anymore. So I was active in that field 5 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, I prefer to work with farmers. I just like farmers. They're very practical. They have to make tough decisions, and I just like them. You know, they're very concrete. They really do. It's about something. It's not just on talking. You know.
Yeah, it's actionable.
And it's also because I grow up on a farm. You know, my brothers are farmers. From my wife's side, they're all farmers.
I loved that part in your bio where it said, and Wim grew up on a farm, which makes him very practical.
Yeah.
That's a quotable quote. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So we'll just pause here for a moment and then be getting the cue from our producers. Hi, I'm Toby Vernon, a partner with Simpatico Studios and host of the Food and Agriculture channel on Simpatico TV. The global food and agriculture sector is faced with a complex set of intersecting challenges, sustainably feeding a growing population amid accelerating climate change and declining farmland and farmer populations. Each week, I host live stream talk shows featuring farmers and ranchers, researchers, policymakers, investors, and business and technology developers. Together, we're growing a community of leaders that are addressing food and ag's most vexing problems, one innovative solution at a time. And I invite you to join us in the live audience or as a guest. I'm glad you're here. Enjoy the conversation. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the Food and Agriculture channel on Simpatico TV. Today, Dr. Wim Bastiaanse joins us to talk about the innovative irrigation technology he's developed through 30 years of research as a scientist and global water accountant. Wim's company, Irrigation, uses specialized remote sensing algorithms to provide farmers and irrigators the data they need to optimize water applications based on their unique location and crop and weather context. Dr. Bastianson's joining us from the Netherlands, and you're very welcome. Great to see you here, Dr. Bastianson. How are you today?
Hello, Toby. Very nice to be in your show. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. This is a topic obviously crucial and important to the agriculture sector. But the technology that you've been developing over the course of 30 years as a researcher, as a lecturer, as a scientist and consultant is fascinating. And I want to learn more about this idea of what you say we're aiming for, which is more crop per drop. Can you tell me a bit about what IrriWatch is doing to provide more crop per drop?
Yeah, thank you, Toby. We'll be very happy to do that. See, at higher level, we talked for a long time about improving the water productivity or crop per drop. And some people call that also water use efficiency. So there are a lot of people at higher level that want to create a better use of water. And that is very nice. But in the end, we have to help the people, and in this case, the farmers on the ground, because the farming and the irrigation sector is using 70 to 90% of the water in our rivers and reservoirs. So if we do not help them on an individual basis, then it's very difficult for a farmer to increase that crop per drop. So IrriWatch is a remote sensing company.
Okay.
So there are now many remote sensing companies that use satellite images to map what happens in the field. And IrriWatch is using those, let's say, state-of-the-art models and satellites to measure every 30 feet by 30 feet every day.
Okay.
So we can really zoom into your crop.
So I want to get into the technical aspects of how your algorithms work and sort of the technology behind IrriWatch. But tell me about why a grower should be interested in this remote sensing data provision. I mean, farmers and irrigators, water applicators have for a long time been able to stick their finger in the soil and sort of check the relative moisture. They can look at their plants and see how happy they are. Yeah. Why are these methods not adequate for water application? And yeah, why should farmers and irrigators be so interested in this?
Yeah, there is really a need for more precision. In the older days, somebody was indeed just looking at the field, are my crops okay or not? And you were opening the valves and you were irrigating.
Yeah.
But that time is over. We cannot just longer flood our lands because we have only a limited amount of water. And people then ask me, but is there less water on Earth? No, it's like still exactly the same. But we have now locally more demand for water. We have now also a growing population. So other sectors also need water. We are much more concerned about our environment now and wetlands. They all need water. But also there is a link to changes in our weather pattern. So we have less rainfall, maybe some places less snowfall. There are locations with glacier melt. So if you put the two together, that you have less water and you need more demand, then somewhere it's not matching. So farmers, they better get used to the idea that there will be less water for them in the future. Now, classically, a farmer thinks about, okay, I have a business, I want a certain income, I want to have a certain crop production, and I evaluate my agricultural practices per unit of land, okay, like so many pounds per acre. That is the classical basis. What we want to actually do more with IrriWatch is help them also to think more about, okay, but can we also have the same production, but with less water? So can we bring down the amount of water that the crop is needed? And yes, that is possible. We know from research, there are great research organizations everywhere in the world. We know that this is possible. But then you leave it to all PhDers, to do the to do the cropping, okay? Okay, they can. They know how to do it. But then let's now reach out to Farmer John. Okay, he also has to do it. And so I really want to use these satellite measurements to show him where he is on that line. You know, is he above the line, which is good, or is he below the line, which means like, hey, John, you're still using too much water. And there are many colleagues of you in the same village, maybe even on the same road, who have the same production but use less water. And that's
Mm,
fascinating.
mm. So you're saying that farmer A and farmer B can have the same 1,000 acres. They can be growing the same crop. Let's choose a commodity. Let's say they're both doing the same corn and soy rotation. Farmer A might be using traditional irrigation practices. He might just be observing the quality of his field, sticking his finger in the soil. Farmer B might be using more precision techniques, and his soy crop is looking better. It's producing higher yields precisely for the fact that he's more intelligently and more precisely applying water to where it's needed. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And sometimes even the yield between farmer A and B are the same, but one is
Mm,
using much more water than the other.
yeah, which is
And
a crucial point, obviously.
which is a crucial point because the message I want to give, unfortunately, is that everything will become more watertight.
Mm,
There's no escape.
mm,
We have to optimize. And we know we can do it from the academic research of many years, but now we have to help the farmers on, moving into a better direction. And,
so,
and if I can add, Tony, so there is also it's also that it can be an economic incentive for the farmer.
mm, tell me about
Uh,
that.
because you see, if he irrigates less, maybe have less energy costs. Maybe he's pumping from 1,000 feet, okay? And if he pumps from 1,000 feet, you need a lot of heavy equipment for drilling, for
Mm,
pumping, a lot of
mhm,
energy, more labor and so on. But if you can have less intense irrigations, maybe reuse the water. You may have to pay less for energy, but also for water. Some countries they charge now for water. So even then, if they can save this 10, 20, 30%, that is already a lot of economic saving. So my point is
right.
that it can also be an incentive for the farmer to yeah to look more carefully about how much water he is using.
Mm, good point. Um, so let's talk about the IrriWatch product in a little bit more detail, and how farmers get data and how farmers make decisions
Hmm.
around their irrigation practices.
Yeah.
How does that even happen? So you're working with remote sensing algorithms. Is
We
this an app? Are
mm,
you providing reports? Tell me about that.
yeah. No, we have an app. So it's mainly app based because that is what growers like the most to have an app. Um, so the satellites, we have about 8 different satellites that come in the midday situation. And then in the evening, I'm collecting all these images from different space agencies, from America, from Europe, from Japan. I'm collecting all these images. I do the processing in the cloud. And then overnight, I will send an update to the growers. Okay. So
Okay.
in the morning at the breakfast, they get an app message on a field by field basis.
Mm,
Number one, should I irrigate or not? Because maybe if there's no need, it says, hey, you can wait a few days. It saves you water. Number two, if you have to irrigate, what would be the amount? Okay. So we also give you, like today, you have to give so many inches. So instead of the normal 1.4 inch, today give 1.1 inch. And so it's really field specific and for every day. And this service is based on a data subscription. So farmers can sign up their specific fields. They can say, okay, this field is mine.
mm,
This one is having cotton. Okay, then I go to the other field. This one is strawberries, and then I knowing it's a strawberry, for instance, I gave a different irrigation schedule than if it's a cotton crop. So I use that information from the farm.
crucial that you're able to just to provide data based on site location, weather patterns, weather as it changes, and crop. So what's the advantage of using a remote sensing approach as opposed to, I don't know, just using like a historical weather data and following historical weather patterns?
Yeah. Well, the historical weather patterns are always good to learn from, like, hey, that year we had this weather, what was the yield, and so on. That's always good. But what we do with the real time is that we can really take into consideration the actual situation. Like, compare it to weather forecasts. You really would like to have a weather forecast on a specific moment for that moment. Should I take on a coat or not if I go outside? Do I expect rain or not?
Yeah.
And that's the same with irrigation. Irrigation is very dynamic. The
Yeah.
moisture changes from day to day. The weather changes from day to day. But even the crop, some crops, they can grow in 100 days, and and they will be harvested. So even in 1 or 2, 3 days, crops can really grow fast. So the point here is that everything is very dynamic. And you asked before about, but what about local sensing? You can put maybe some instruments in the soil, which is super good. It's always good to measure. But don't forget that one sensor is measuring the volume of a tennis ball. Okay, so let's say you have there your 50-acre field with corn or soya, and then you have your expensive sensor that is measuring the size of a tennis ball. It's not so easy to base your decisions on irrigation upon such a thing. So for me, it's very important to look at spatial variability. So I like with IrriWatch to not only give the average for the whole field, which is really a truly representative value, but also the ranges, like how many pixels are dry and how many pixels are wet. Because as a farmer, also you want to keep the spatial variability within your field small. You want to have uniform moisture, uniform production, and so on. So that is another reason that satellite images can give you the full insights. And cost-wise, it's not much more than the traditional irrigation sensors. So also sensors, a farmer has to invest several hundreds of dollars and sometimes even thousands of dollars. An IrriWatch subscription, if I can say so, is only $6 per acre per year.
Okay, wow, wow.
And not only you get then the irrigation advice, but you also can see your production. So you can see the accumulation of your cotton fields, the production. Do I do well or not? But also, what is the reference? So do I better than, or worse than other years? Do I use more water or less water? So you get also like alerts, like, are you okay during the season? If you do it at the end of the season, it's too late. You cannot change your irrigation and your farm practices. But during the season, you can modify, and that's good. That's very good.
So tell me a bit. Let's dig into the data collection and measurement process a little bit here. So, what exactly are satellites measuring, and how's that data processed in such a way that it's useful to a farmer to make decisions based on?
Yeah, no, that is a very good question. So the satellites, they measure radiation. They are what we call radiometers. Okay. So, but from that we can derive the temperature of the leaves, the temperature of the crop, and that is a very important parameter, because the temperature of the crop tells you whether it has sufficient moisture, the crop photosynthesis is good, growth is good, and so on. So we have different satellites that measure the temperature. And what I did as a scientist is I developed those models that take this raw data and from different satellites. And I'm not going to explain in more details, but we have several bands, several satellites. I put it all together in one big model or algorithm, and we run it in the cloud, so that it's cheap. Otherwise I never can afford it at $6 per acre per year.
Yeah, that's an incredibly that's
Yeah,
to me it seems like a bargain price.
it is. No, it is. And seriously, 5 years ago, this was impossible. I tell you, Toby, 5 years ago, I had 35 people, doing all this image processing. And now
Wow,
it's just two-man company, everything in the cloud, and we
wow.
make it for free. And, that's the good thing, of living in the 2020 that we have a lot of.
So that sounds great that you have really economized your sort of the business side here. And I'm happy for that. But tell me about the farmer capital outlay needs. Do they need to change their equipment or their irrigation
Mm,
infrastructure at all?
No, not necessarily. I mean, many of them already have good drip irrigation systems
Okay.
in place.
Okay.
They already have a sprinkler system in place or a center pivot. Some of them are still having the flood irrigation, which is
Mm,
not necessarily bad. I mean, even in Southern California, and all these vegetable areas, you have a lot of flood irrigation. But if you know how to do it, you can do it. The point is much more like I don't need to the farmer do not need to change infrastructure, but it's more the operation of the infrastructure.
mm,
And this is quite important. It's a mindset thing because people always, you see, if they have a flat tire with the John Deere, they will replace it immediately.
mm-hmm.
Okay, if they have to buy a new drip liner, they buy it. It's a mindset to say, okay, I buy a new drip line, but also now I buy a small software package that helps me in the operations. But tell me every time I have to fight again, explaining like, hey guy, if you buy this small additional piece, you can have more benefits from your investment.
Okay. So you're not asking you're providing people the decision making data. You're not asking them necessarily to change their practice
No, that's
specifically.
up to them. That is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
up to
Yeah. Yeah.
them.
Tell me
Although some
about.
farmers want to have a full automation, so that because sometimes even the workers make then a mistake. So the farmer takes the right decision, the manager and the workers they make a mistake. So they like that in the end, but I think we're still a few years away. That automatically we control the valves, that distribute the water in the field. That technically is possible.
Yeah, so you were reading my thoughts there. I was curious to know how what your data or what your platform is integrated to, and how much automation is possible, how much manual sort of ground truthing is still necessary. Is there tell me about what processes are in place to verify that
Mhm.
the data that's being delivered to
Yeah.
farmers is actually yielding sort of the target
Yeah,
moisture.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's a very good point because if you're not used to those remote sensing products, it's like I don't believe you.
Hmm.
It's too good to be true.
Right.
So you have to show all the time it's accurate, and it's interesting, because we work in 25 countries, but in every country we have to show this again and again. So if I go to Egypt and show nice maps of Arkansas, they will say, no, no, not good, not good. We have to check
Sure.
it in Egypt.
Sure.
So there are. I like to work with local universities also a lot
Okay.
because they have also interest in new research. So I like to say that a local university, have a publication and say, hey, this is good, this is reliable. But also I like to work with very applied people, people that have more mud on their hands. These are more the agricultural extension people. The more other people say that it works, the better it is, because farmers are a bit conservative when it comes to new things, and very often it's like my neighbor is not using it, so I'm also not using it. But then you get into a cycle because nobody's using it because there is no neighbor who's using it. So working with innovators is also very important. And the best advertisement of the product is that if an innovator, a farmer innovator, is telling, hey, this is good, especially if he tells
Yes.
that on social media or on your channel,
Yeah.
that
For
is that
sure.
is the most important. If they are satisfied, then other people will also accept it.
We
Yeah.
hear that all the time with new agricultural system transitions, take cover crops, for example, we hear this all the time, right? Like Farmer Jones is not going to start using a cover crop rotation in between his corn and soy. It's extra fertilizer, it's extra seed, it's extra time, it's equipment cost. And until Farmer Dan from 3 fields down really starts to go to the coffee shop and bear the, as the farmers say, bear the brunt of other farmers talking about him when they're there for coffee in the morning and talking about his fields looking dirty and not clean, pristine, chocolate cake clean and smooth. But when as Gabe Brown says, when they move from signing the back of the check to the front of the check, that's where, or from the front of the check to the back of the check, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's really where the proof is shown in the pudding. So talk to me a little bit about geography. Mike in the community room here is curious about where Irrigation is right now. Is the product available to farmers out on the market right now? If so, where are you?
Any farmer in the world, any field, any crop. So recently I had a podcast. It was recorded in America, and I got a client from New Zealand, and now he's using it. Then I got another client from South America, So this kind of also broadcasts are very important to reach out. So there is no restriction, So if you are a farmer, if you have land in another country or in another state in the US, far away, no problem. It takes approximately 1 day between signing up and that you're getting the first data on your app.
That's impressive.
It is.
Very cool.
And we are in 25 countries. So, California is obviously big, but also Mexico, Brazil, Spain, Portugal, South Africa, Middle East, so Israel, Egypt, Lebanon, but also Central Asia. Central Asia has also a lot of problems on water. They have big irrigation systems. Also there we help. And we are not only helping farmers, but also we have what we call water districts. So like a water board or an irrigation district, or you may them call irrigation department.
Yeah.
They have a responsibility of a certain acreage of land, and they want to do a good job. They want to be accountable in a way. They want to say, hey, people, this is what we do for you, and they want to show it to everybody. And some of them already subscribed. They said, look, we do not want to have it for the daily decisions, but we want to show the larger public we use the scarce water wisely. And that's quite a fascinating concept.
It is. Just to sort of bring this conversation to a temporary close until we meet again. Tell me a little bit about who's not using IrriWatch that maybe could and should. So we've talked a lot about farmers, but that's clearly not the last and
sure
most necessary end user.
There are absolutely different groups. So we talked about the farmers, we talked about the water districts, but also think about agricultural insurance. So we calculate crop growth, crop production. So for instance, if you have a dry year, farmers can take an insurance that if it's too dry, they get a compensation, a financial payout. But what is dry? So you have to measure not only the moisture, but also we can see how much less the production is. Okay, so that is, for instance, very interesting for an insurance company. But also the let's say you have many factories of center pivot irrigation, right, or drip systems. So if they can sell it, but if they can add, a package for maybe 2 years or 3 years, subscription, that is maybe, less than 0.01% of the total investment. and then that grower can have much more benefits from that investment. So it's also, but it should come from the equipment providers, you see. So you're talking about completely different groups of potential clients. So that is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, well, I think that tees us up for a future conversation about the policy environment of water conservation and water pricing.
Yeah.
But thank you, Dr. Wim Bastiaansen, for joining me today. This is an important and really fun topic to talk about. I appreciate you making the time. Folks can learn more about Irrowatch at irrowatch.com.
Yeah.
And thanks so much for joining us. It's great to have you. I hope you'll come back and join us again in the future.
Well, thank you very much, Toby. It was a real pleasure to be in your show and have a nice conversation on something that is, the missing link when you talk about sustainable food and agriculture. You have to add the water component. So I'm very glad that I got some time to express myself on this topic. Thank you.
Likewise. If you'll just hang on with us, we'll close out this segment and then move into just chatting.
Sure.
Back for the second segment here, for the Just Chatting segment. You know, this is a cool topic. I'm really glad that we're getting to cover it. Sarah in the community room here has some questions about what data water districts are interested in tracking. How are you working with water districts around the world right now? What data do they need, and how do they need to demonstrate progress in their conservation goals?
Yeah, whoa, that's no, this is exactly going into the direction of the policy. So they have a responsibility, and there are, of course, water acts in place. And so more and more, these water districts, they have to work out a longer term strategy of using only what they call renewable water. There is also non-renewable water. That means water that you mine, you take out that water, but it will never be replaced. So they have to work on renewable water. Now, this is often a problem is groundwater.
Yeah.
So groundwater is easy to pump, but if you pump more, then it's being recharged, in these aquifers underneath the ground. Then, yeah, you have a problem. So what these water districts want, they want have much more information on, okay, how much water is evaporated, and also because that water that's evaporated, basically it's gone into the atmosphere, and it's bye bye. You cannot use it again. Nobody can reuse it, or recycle it. That water flows to the ocean. Is gone. So they want to know what they call ET, evapotranspiration. But also they are a lot of they are interested also in this, how in this applied water. So a farmer applies, let's say, 100 liter of water, and then maybe 70 liter of water is used by the crop, which on this ET. The other 30 liter actually is still in the system. So they really want to understand this, let's say, local water cycles much better, and they contract me. So I have a few water districts that say, look, just give us the data. And some of them, they say, okay, Wim, let's start. But first of all, I want to have the data from the last 5 years. That gives me a little bit of a reference, on how much are we already using at the moment? And does it change maybe from year to year? So that they have at least some better understanding on where they are right now. And then also I can show them all the farms or maybe canals or, certain areas of interest that farmers are wasting water. And of course, that is something that they want to know. They really want to know, like we're talking about the crop per drop. And the crop per drop is really like, okay, I get more production per unit water. But let's say if 80% of the farmers are good, they meet a certain target, and 20% not, then they also want to know who they are. And it's not to punish, it's
Mm,
not to
mm.
police, but it's to help. Sometimes they
That's a
do not
great
even
point.
know. They do not even know. Because
Yeah.
one other thing is that why we use remote sensing, and I should have mentioned that in the interview. But if you put a sensor in the soil, you can measure moisture. Okay, good, but it's not so easy to measure the crop evapotranspiration. It's not easy to measure the crop growth. The crop production is also not so easy.
Okay.
So a satellite can actually measure more parameters and
Mm.
get a more comprehensive understanding of the water system as compared to just only field sensors. So water districts are really keen on getting the total picture. And of course, they have flow meters. That's very common to have flow meters, so they know that and they get the data. But that's only one part. If we can also get more information about how much water is evaporated, and do they have a high water productivity or not, high crop drop, that is making more and more sense. It's funny, because before it was mainly talk by UN, by the United Nations on this. And then now 10, 20 years later, you see already that first water districts also talk about more crop drop. So it takes time, but gradually this is going down, and it's their responsibility. you
So
know.
is there a way to use your technology proactively, um, and to be able to provide districts or individuals or companies with data?
Yeah.
Are you able to just go and unsolicited measure their crop
I,
production, their water use, and then
yeah.
come to them and say, look, you guys are really, losing the bag here. You could be saving tens of thousands, maybe, millions of dollars in water savings.
Hmm. No, that is true. And you asked before, what is your product? On the one hand, I was speaking about the apps, but also we are going to make 10-day bulletins. So on these bulletins, we will point out, hey, this field and that field, you have to give more attention. The other fields are all okay, but there are a few fields that
Mm.
during the last 10 days, something is not good. Now that is further up to you. That's your responsibility. There is no legal, action or whatever, but we want to make them aware that such thing is happening.
Um, Sarah's asking a question here, which is good. Curious about, do water districts also pay the same market price of $6 per acre for the Irrowatch platform?
Yeah. No, they no. But the reason is that the price changes with area signed up in general. Okay. So if Frito-Lay or PepsiCo will sign up, with 100,000 acre, also they get a completely different price.
Mm.
So there is on the website there is a table between acreage and cost. So basically, you can say roughly for about 200,000 acre, it's only $1 or so per acre.
Gotcha. So volume pricing is an option, and this
Yeah.
in some ways alludes to a question that Mike submitted earlier. I didn't see the full question, but um, more about geography. Are there places? Are there geographic locations that Airwatch is not currently being used, but maybe should, or you would like for the?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, absolutely. I want to become the world leader on this. So that's very simple. So at the moment, I have nothing in Chile.
Okay.
But the grape season is starting,
Yeah.
So it's southern hemisphere. The grapes are coming. You have the same big problem. They have these Andes mountains. They have less glaciers. They have less flow coming from the mountains. All these farmers are
Mm.
crying, like, "Oh, I'm not getting the water," and so on. And now the government is very interesting. They come and like, "Hey, can you help us?" So
Mm.
no, I will definitely would like to expand to more geographies. And yeah, absolutely. See, it is not an easy thing. It took me also 30 years to find out. on how I should make those models, these algorithms and these decision models.
Mm,
And if you do only science, then I think you do not understand it. If you do only farming, then you do also do not understand it. So yeah, I like to be a little bit in between, between the farmer's view and the practical requirements, what they
yeah.
need, versus then a good utilization. And there are now many IT companies which are all, competitors. They also want to have a global irrigation scheduling service, but yeah, they have their remote sensing is too simple, it's too light.
Mm, mm,
And you know why? It's mainly because they have an IT background, so they're super good in IT solutions,
okay.
but they have no clue on how to convert a raw satellite image into a product that the farmer really needs. And that is where, my personal strength is coming in.
Mm. So this prompts even more curiosity for me, more about your business expansion approach. How do you reach potential clients? How are you? You're obviously in the Netherlands, but
Yeah,
product
yeah.
can be used anywhere in the world. What's your business development process?
No, that is a very good question. And number one, I do not want to have any investors. So if investors are listening, go away. Um, they tell you what to do, and they have no clue about the business. So I want to do it with my own capital. This is number one. Number two, I have resellers. So in 25 countries, I have resellers. So these are people that
Okay,
really like the idea, and I have been working in 45 countries in my career. So I have been traveling around the world all the time, until this year, until the COVID year.
of
I'm
course,
not
like all
moving
of
at
us.
all. I'm not moving at all from Amsterdam. But you see, I have connections. I have done projects with those people. I know that those people are capable, and also I know that they can set up a business. So I have representatives in California, in Canada, in Portugal, in Spain, South Africa, even Australia, India. We have a couple because it's so big, and that is a way that I can scale up. See, basically, I have zero limitations for the upscaling. I can completely automate the process. It's just a matter of hiring more capacity in the cloud.
It reminds me of, and I'm just trying to remind myself here. It reminds me almost sort of Hawkins Ag. They don't their business development. They're a strip tillage company, right? They manufacture uh, strip tillage equipment, and that's all they do. And their business development practice, they've been around for 40 years. They're not interested in investors. They're interested in evangelists. So that's how they broadcast their product.
Yeah.
If you try to reach a marketing department, they won't talk to you. They'll connect you to one of their farmers. They call them their strip tillage evangelists.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for a lot of the same reason that you just described there, it's like, look, I appreciate that you have gobs of money, but this is about relationships. This is about a really specialized
Exactly.
process and technique that can't be managed from a business. It can't be managed from a business management theory perspective.
Exactly. It's exactly, Toby, that's exactly the point. It's sector dependent,
Mm,
it's market dependent. You have to find these evangelists, but I think you can find them in that bar, on the corner where you can have a cup of coffee, where people, have just to sign the wrong side of the check.
yeah,
That's where you have to find them. I'm very
that's right.
serious, and I have given even lectures to farmers, in South Africa, black and white, all together, in the local pub. I had a,
Nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
A great
That was an
setting.
oh man, that was some 10 years ago, but when we had some first ideas. But I like that, to have a road tour and go
Yeah.
to the local pub, invite the farmers. They're all coming with their trucks. So one, you can start if you have 20 or 30 big trucks in front of that pub, and the beer is flowing. You can start giving your speech, and then
Yeah.
you get then you yeah. And if you have somebody that says, yeah, I have done it, and preferably a local.
Hmm.
Some people like to call him, I think, even wolf. First you need to have the wolf, And once you have the wolf, he will then get the sheep, But if you have no wolf, you will catch maybe only one sheep, but not enough, So yeah, and I know this is taking time, but I learned that that doesn't matter as long as there is progress. Number one, and number two, the product should be good. So if you go too fast, and if you have, I can have 100 of marketeers, but if there's something in the product is not good or whatever, then you're not making any progress. So I do step by step. I do more organic. I'm checking the models myself. If there is a complaint from a country, from a farmer, I look myself, I dig it up, and then sometimes like, yes, this is a special situation that is not yet inside the algorithm, so I modify it, and that is the way it has to grow. But the fact that it's 100% scalable and very affordable, in my view, price wise, I think we have great opportunities.
If there
Really.
was any doubt in anyone's mind, there's the evidence that you're a farmer at heart. Right there. Hey, Dr. Bastiansen, it's about time for us to wrap this one up, but you've given us a great survey of Earwatch. You've teed us up for future conversations about the policy environment surrounding water conservation. And as I mentioned leading up to the first segment, Simpatico is building a water community that I think you and Earwatch belong in. So we'll keep in touch. I really appreciate you making time today, and I'm going to look forward to
absolutely
having you back on the Food and Ag channel.
No, that is wonderful, Toby. Thank you so much, and let me know. And just a practical last question from my side. So, is it? So, when is this? I mean, is the recording already available on Simpatico? Will it take it a few days, or?
That's a great question. I'll be following up with you tomorrow and sending you the directions to download it, and you can repurpose the material however you like.
Oh, fantastic!
As early as tomorrow afternoon.
But I love that, and I really will, put your logos everywhere, which you of course will do. I did one episode before. I think that's also why. I mean, a podcast. I think that is why you found me. And really,
from Tim Hammerich's podcast.
But from Tim Hammerich, and really, now I got an sugarcane factory from Guatemala.
Very cool.
And they love it, and it's only because of this podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic. So
one of our producers, I love that. So I'm going to show this everywhere.
Good. One of our producers and the host of the Impact Media channel, Mike DiGirolamo, he actually he converts this episode, or not all of our episodes, but I think this will be a good candidate into podcast format. So let me connect with Mike on that question, Vim, and then I'll let you know about that. Also, in that same vein of question, if there are particular clips within the discussion that we had today that you feel like are particularly interesting that you want us to extract out and clip out, just let me know. You and I can chat offline and we'll take care of that.
I like that. Yeah. Because we have a nice reel. I'm not sure you have seen it, but there is a reel maybe where we can take a few or one or two pictures of the reel of the portal, that you can really see the field. Maybe it would be nice. It's very easy to give you good material. I have so much material,
Yeah,
we're very glad to provide you, that you can have a first-class video.
That's great. Well, thank you. We're going to stay in touch. This isn't our last conversation by any means. I think we're just getting started.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Toby, thank you so much.
Take care, Vim. Be in touch. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.